Another bias within science is a sort of conservatism. Scientists tend to be very conservative about their predictions, about their theories. They want to over-qualify everything. They don't want to speculate. They don't like to speculate. They don't like to theorize. They want to have rigorous proofs. They want to overprove. They want to have an overabundance of evidence so that something is so overproven that it's just beyond any kind of possible denial. But this creates a methodological bias also, because when your filter is set so strict, it's almost like setting an email filter in your email, a spam filter in your email software. If you have no filter at all and it's too loose, then you get a bunch of spam and it's a problem. So what the scientist does is the scientist is almost someone like who's so paranoid, who got so much spam, he sets all of these filters, and he sets filters even for normally you set a filter for a word like porn or pussy or dick or something like that. You set these filters and then those emails go straight to your junk box. But this scientist has become so paranoid, he's so sensitive, that now he sets filters for words like experience and sensation and emotion and feelings and consciousness. And so anytime one of those words appears in an email, which are very common, many good emails contain those words, all those go straight to the junk box. So the scientist has overcorrected, and as a result, his method is actually missing a lot of things that are valid and true that should belong within science, but that he has just thrown into the trash. Other methods, there's so much to say here. Other methodological biases, there's so much to say here. We're not going to have enough time to cover them all, so I have to go through them quickly, is the avoidance of marketing, poetic language, and hype. Now, again, what's tricky about these biases is that most scientists actually say to themselves, rationalize to themselves why these biases are good, therefore they're not even biases, but they are biases. Most scientists do not care about marketing. This presents a problem. Scientists say that, well, that's good. I don't want to care about marketing. I don't want to care about poetic language and hype. But when you don't care about those things, that means that your scientific discoveries do not properly translate into the community at large, who are not nerds like you, are not going to read your research papers. They need marketing. The discovery of new scientific truths needs to be marketed. It needs to be written in poetic language. It needs to be hyped up, certain truths. For example, the majority of mankind, even though this has been well known for 100 years since Albert Einstein discovered it, still don't fathom the significance of general relativity. Einstein's general relativity says that literally time and space and distance, that these are relative things. They don't exist as absolutes. They're not objective in the way that humans ordinarily conceive. And this has been so poorly marketed and so poorly explained and hyped up. The significance of this has been so poorly taught to people that the majority of people on the planet don't understand that our reality actually doesn't have objective distances. Most people in the world think that, if someone is 6 foot tall, they think, well, they're just a 6 foot tall object. No, that's not true. That's not true even according to science, to modern materialist science. It's not true. It's just been very poorly marketed. And that's what happens when you have a method that is limited by a bias. Another bias within science is proving things. Trying to make things objective or rational. I can see the good intentions behind trying to prove everything, but the problem is that, as I've talked about in my metaphysical implications of Gödel's completeness theorem, is that truth is a larger concept than proof, and that, as Kurt Gödel proved in his incompleteness theorems, and then Alfred Tarski later expanded, is that you cannot prove everything that is true. So if your method only relies upon proof, by definition, you will never have all the truth. So by definition, science cannot be truthful because by its methods, it only relies upon proof. And proof is a second order, smaller subset of the first order phenomena of truth. If you want a more detailed explanation of all that, go check out that episode about Gödel's incompleteness theorem, spelled Godel. Gödel. Another bias of science is it's very left brain, it's very analytical, reductionistic, and it expects explication. I've talked about this in my episode called Implicit versus Explicit, a very powerful episode. Go check that out, very foundational. Basically, what I tell you there is that infinity cannot be explicated because infinity is that which is infinitely implicit. It is endlessly explicatable. But the scientific mind tries to explicate everything. It thinks it can explicate reality completely. It thinks it can just write reality down as a formula or as a set of formulas or as a set of propositions, and you can't do that because reality is infinite. Other of these biases are like the analytical function of the scientific approach and the reductionistic tendency and attitude. Scientists tend to believe they can reduce everything down to subatomic particles and things like that, or to mathematical equations. This turns out to be false, as I've talked about in my holism episodes. Go check out the holism stuff. See, we're really interconnecting everything here. The analytical left-brained approach to studying reality is just one way of looking at reality. There's also the right-brained approach, which is actually more holistic and can actually get you better results in many ways. So in many ways, modern science is suffering from too much analysis and not enough synthesis because it's biased towards analysis rather than synthesis. And when you do that, you get a distorted picture of what reality is. So all of these biases that I'm pointing out here, notice these biases are actually preventing science from having an accurate picture of reality. Another bias of science is the use of language, models, and quantification. There's the assumption that all of reality can be quantified, and if something can't be quantified, it isn't even real. This is baloney. It's laughable. Also, all science is done within language, and language itself presents a set of limits upon ways of accessing, interfacing with consciousness and with reality. So there's language. If language is a circle like this, then all of reality and truth is like outside the scope of the camera frame. In fact, it's infinite. So language is just a tiny piece of an infinite larger pie. And so you can't actually use language to understand the entire situation.